Hi guys, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to use Sequator. Sequator is a program that is used to reduce noise by stacking similar photos on top of each other, especially for the use of stars in photographing Milky Way or other star scenes. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. I start in Lightroom. So what I'll do is I'll take a series of pictures. And right here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pictures that I took, pretty much the same scene. And the first 7 pictures are pretty much exactly the same except for the stars slightly moving in each one. And then the final picture is one that I took that is much longer exposure, approximately 4 minutes long. And this picture is just for the foreground. And I'll get to that point later, but I'm going to start with just the pictures, this stack of 6. And you want to use at least, stack of 7. And you want to use at least 6. 6 to 10 tends to be the best range. You get much above 10 and it starts losing its effectiveness. So I'm going to start here. I'm just going to make some minor adjustments just like I normally would in Lightroom, and then I will come back. Okay, so I've done my edits and I've synced those edits across all 8 pictures. And the edits are pretty simple, just using the sliders to make the picture look a little bit better. Adjust the color, white balance, I brought up the exposure a little bit, dropped the highlights, etc. If you look right down here, I have added no noise reduction. Except for the final picture right here, that really long exposure, the 4-minute one, I did add some noise reduction there, probably right around 23. That can vary quite a bit depending on how much noise is in the picture, and I'll explain that later. We are going to stack these first 7 pictures in Sequator, and that'll reduce the noise by stacking, but it's just going to reduce the noise in the sky. Then I'm going to blend it with this really long exposure that has the noise reduction on and was taken at a much lower ISO. Between the two should reduce the noise drastically and have a much better quality picture. So right now I'm going to take these pictures, these 8 pictures, and I am just going to export those, and I'm going to export those as TIFF files. So I have the preset right here, so I'm going to put in subfolder TIFF right in the same file, same folder as the original photo, and TIFF will give me a full resolution output. I'm not going to do any extra sharpening, no watermarks, nothing like that. I'm just going to export, and that'll take just a minute to export those 8 files, and then I'll be able to grab especially the first 7 and load them into Sequator. So while that's exporting, I'm going to come over and open Sequator. Now Sequator is a very basic program, so it sits in a file right on my desktop, and I just go in and I just click on the file, the program itself. That'll open up, and now it's a little bit weird to use this program. So I'm going to double click on Star Images, and inside my file I have created this little TIFF folder. That's where Lightroom put these pictures, and I'm going to double click on that, and I've got 8 files here. Now I don't want all of them, I just want the first 7. The final one I'm kind of keeping to the side for right now, and I'm just going to hit open. And right down here, this is one of the least obvious parts. You're going to double click on output, and this program works a little bit backwards. You are setting the placeholder where you're going to save the file before you do anything. Most things you save at the end. This saves right at the beginning. So I'll just say final or stack or whatever you want to call it. I'll call mine final. I'll just hit save. Next, I am going to click on the composition align stars. Now it's very important you click on this next little button right down here. It's called Freeze Ground. So what Sequator does is it repositions each picture and just grabs the stars out of that picture. And meanwhile, it also, since noise is inconsistent with each picture, by doing the stacking and shifting, it eliminates the noise, but in a much better way than using noise reduction. So we have freeze ground, and then next one I'm going to put sky region. I'm going to click on that, and I have irregular mask clicked. If that's not clicked, please click it. And this is going to give me the option, as you can see, to mask out the sky. So I'm just going to come around here. I'm going to draw this in. It's a very light green, so I hope you can see it okay. And I'm just going to go like this, get as close as I can here. And then if you use the scroll on your mouse to make it smaller or bigger, that way you can kind of get into these other areas a little bit better. And if you happen to kind of go into the land area, there's another unobvious part. Use the right click button on your mouse to remove that mask. So I'm just going to go along here and mask this in. And again, I'm scrolling in and out to kind of get a little bit closer. It does not have to be perfect. Just make sure you're not getting any of the ground in there. Okay, so that should do it. And that's it. The rest of these options in here, you'll see a whole bunch of options for auto brightness, high dynamic range, ignore those. I have seen no evidence that these actually do much of anything. There might be certain cases where they do something, so don't shoot me. But for the most part, that's all you need to mess with, and just hit start. This will take just a moment as it... Okay. So now it's done. It'll say completed successfully. It'll beep at you, and then just hit close. And then I usually just exit out of this program, exit Sequator without saving current project, yes. And then if you go over to your files, and then you just go over to your file in Explorer. Now mine is on my external hard drive, so I have to go into that. So I'll go down to where that is located and grab those. Again, here's the TIFF file that I originally created, and you see here I have a file named Final. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to open with Adobe Photoshop 2022. I'm also going to right click on the one next to it, that final one, that the really long exposure, and I'm going to open that with Photoshop as well. So now what I need to do is I need to put these together in layers. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of grab this, and you can grab it any way you want. You get Control A or whatever, and I am just going to drag this on top of the other one. So now I have these two layers. One is the extremely long exposure, the other one is the stack. And if you look very closely here, we can zoom in and see that is very minimal noise for a night picture, and we didn't use any noise reduction, so we have no loss of sharpness or quality that you would normally get with noise reduction. So it does a great job of doing it does a great job very simply. So I'm going to go back to just fit screen, and now I have the two layers here, and so I'm just going to get rid of this other one. So they're stacked right here, and what I will do, thank goodness, used to be that we'd have to go through channels and do all kinds of things to just get the sky, but nowadays we have the simple use of select sky in Photoshop, so I'll just say select sky. This will take just a moment. Okay, so now the sky is selected. Now in this case I actually want to invert this, so I'm going to hit Control Shift I, and this is just the shortcut for invert. Again, that's Control Shift I. You can also go up to select and hit inverse if that's easier to remember. And then all I have to do is just put a mask right on that, and now I have the picture I want, the really long exposure in the foreground. That's much better detail, not as noisy, because that was shot at ISO 800. And then I have the sky that was done in Sequator. Very simple.